First Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chris Johnson. Palpable.
There we go.
Hi, Vicki.
Hey, honey.
Aw.
How's it happening?
It's okay. It's,
God, I know.
Whew. I mean, like, can I just get right to the fact that, like, in anticipation of talking to you, that I have cried like 16 times?
What?
No, and I mean, it's just like, I'm so inspired by you, and I learned so much from your discussions that you hold on Facebook and all this stuff, and just because there's stuff that and I really appreciate the. I was listening to Skip the Needle, and I was just like, oh fuck yeah! Like there's just an element of punk rock a little bit in there too, like a little bit of. I mean, you've got so many different influences, and yeah, I don't know. I was cleaning the house and just listening to that, and I was like, damn it, man, this is such a a difficult yet strangely inspiring time.
Yes, both of those things. I mean, when he got elected, I try not to use his name because it fills me with bad feelings. When he got elected, I saw two things. One of them was just mayhem. I knew it was going to happen. I like most people knew, like most people of color, knew that there was a real chance that he was going to get elected. And I watched all of my white friends just be astonished that this could happen, because they were emotionally completely unprepared for what the country really is, because we've been fed such a literally whitewashed version of ourselves. America, land of the free, we assist other failing governments, and we send in the troops when somebody has a bad hurricane or what, like our idea of ourselves is so noble and altruistic, and so a small portion of who we are. But the whole rest of our history it's like somehow that's supposed to erase it. And for most people of color, we live the rest of that history, and we live the rest of what happens in this country every day. We see both sides of, well, and the whole rainbow of it. There's not just two sides. There's a whole bunch of ideas. I mean, there are such things as gay Republicans.
That is a thing.
There are Latino and Latina Trump supporters. It boggles the mind. And so there are these varying versions. So when all that happened, I knew that there was going to be pain, there was going to be mayhem, there was going to be a lot, but I also knew that this was going to force people out of their comfort zone. It was going to force people towards their better angels. I knew that it was going to happen, and that people were going to be confronted. People who had never taken a stand before were going to get in touch with the part of their heart that says, I guess if I'm silent, I either support this white supremacy, or I reach out to my better angels, to all of our better angels. So there you go. That was a great opening sentence, salvo, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll echo that, in that I felt very similar. It's strange that, like, I definitely, there was, in the beginning when he first was running, I was like, nah, no way.
Yeah. As was I.
Yeah. No way. But as we got closer, I was like, oh wait, he's strangely the thing that, like, out of the options, he's a strange thing that will expose the underbelly of this country. like, you know, this guy comes along and blatantly, you know, shows his race card, you know, racist card, basically, and the underbelly goes, yeah. We're like, wait, what? Is that who we are? Like you're saying, yeah, actually, yeah, you know, as a collective, nobody wants to admit any personal fault or anything here, but you know, that's the truth. The truth is that as a collective, that's where we're at. We have to face where we've come from.
Yeah, and there's levels to this too, because I mean, I'm mixed for one thing. I'm light skinned, so, and my parents made me talk this way. Funny thing just happened. I was asked to do a voiceover, and just a voiceover, blah, 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 blah. And I said, are there any parameters, or do you just want a reading of something dry or what? And at the very end of the conversation, he said, well, they're looking for a Black woman. I had to laugh because I do not sound like a Black woman. I mean, I do not sound like a typical Black woman the way that these ad guys want to hear. I don't sound like that. And there's a reason for it. And the reason is my mother and my father made sure that I didn't sound like a Black person because racism informs absolutely everything. In my upbringing, I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and my parents were absolutely convinced that if I did not speak the way I speak, that I would get discriminated against, you know? And so they've basically, and it's one of the reasons why I really identify with a lot of first generation people or second generation people here, because for example, Katie talks about her Italian immigrant grandparents who made sure that her Italian first generation mom did not speak Italian and did not speak with any accent, because that's how you become American. You don't become American by holding on to who you are. You become American by letting go of everything that that makes white people uncomfortable. You know? You know, when we talk about the melting pot, that's what that means. It took me my whole life to figure that out. So I got to understand that I have advantages that other people, other Black women don't have, you know, because of the way I speak, because I know I don't make white people as uncomfortable. They don't have to listen harder or understand the cultural references, or I was a huge nerd and like I am still a huge nerd. You don't grow out of it, you know?
Well, thankfully, because you know that the nerd part makes you like zero in on all the good stuff and get to turn around and share it.
Yeah, I love because your heart is so open. You're you know, every time I've ever seen you, I just it's like you force me into that place. It's like your aura, your energy it reaches through the screen and it just forces itself into my heart, and it makes me want to be a better person, you know?
Oh, Vicki.
Oh, it's really true. The very first time I ever saw you at a gig, I was like, why is this happening?
I remember I was a Skip the Needle gig down there in SF, and you know, Daryl Anders was like, you know who Vicki is? I said, yeah, I kind of know who Vicki is, and you should go down there. I said, I'm going down there. And I was like, what am I gonna bring? I gotta bring treats, you know.
You did. You were so awesome. We were like, what? What? Yeah.
I just love your band. I love all those women and Coffee, and I forget who's on drums.
That's Coffee.
Coffee's on drums.
Yeah. And Coffee's on drums, Coffee Brown drum, Shelley Doty guitar, Katie Colpitt's guitar. Yes.
Shelley,
Shady.
Katie and Shelley.
Yes. Happy birthday, Shelley.
Happy birthday, Shelley.
It was her birthday yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah.
How are things? I mean, I guess are you guys getting together at all? Are you in SF or?
We're in the East Bay. We're an Oakland band. And we figured out how to do some playing distanced. We set up a couple of rehearsals where we played for the neighbors. And on Saturday, we're coming over here to my house. I have a large backyard, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set up and we're going to live stream a show to benefit People's Park. I have not found one word of it on Facebook, even though we're going to be streaming it Facebook Live. I haven't found one word of it because I think the hippies are too technologically challenged. So I'm going to have to figure out some way. I'll just post it today, you know.
Sure. So it's a benefit to, is there a threat of the park closing, or?
There's always a threat of the park closing, but
really?
Basically it's to raise funds to continue all the things that they do there, like, you know, the garden and all of the stuff that happens, you know.
I see.
I don't have all the information, but that's sort of, that to me seems like basically it, you know.
Yeah.
And I love the hippies, man. That People's Park is been going for 50 years, you know.
Yeah. Got to keep it going.
Yeah. And it definitely shows my age to say that I remember when it started, and I remember them, you know, tear gassing all the people in the park every week, every weekend, you know, because they wanted that land. It belonged to the state, you know.
Oh.
And so there was constant attacks going on, you know. That was an incredible time. And for those of us who were alive and awake and paying attention, you know, I mean, I was old enough. I was in my teens to see that, and to see the, you know, the civil rights protests and all of that, and to see this happening again, like 50 years later, is kind of astonishing. Like, somehow in my mind, I just hoped that we'd be farther along, and some things are, but the basics haven't really changed that much.
Yeah, that's kind of the and so to step it back, like you talked about how a lot of people of color, Black people, have to kind of put a whitewashed kind of forward in a way, because like, and for your parents wanting to keep you safe,
right,
you know, trained you into a certain way of being so that you would be, I feel like.
So I would get beat up in junior high every day.
Oh, you would?
Oh my God. I mean, I got beat up in junior high by both. I got chased home from school, and like, I got called teacher's pet, and I got called, I mean, I was a threat to both sides. I was a threat to white people, and I was a threat to, you know, my neighbors, my Black friends, because they were just like, you're just trying to be white. And it's like, no, I'm not in charge of this.
Yeah, it's too Black for the white folk, too white for the Black folk, opposite, you know.
Yeah, I also went to Catholic school, which really, really, like, drove it home. Yeah. But here's the thing, like, I got to experience this, what it means. I kind of got to be stealth. You know how Dave Chappelle talks about Black people speak, you know, they speak the regular way that they talk to their friends, and then they speak job interview, you know?
Right.
Like, I got to experience what happens when you speak job interview. And I got to experience being in a group of white people talking about the bad neighborhood. You know, and like when I moved to LA to work at the Tonight Show, and I was like looking for places to live, and I said I wanted to live in Venice. It was a place I always liked, you know. And they were like, "Oh, you got to be careful down there. There's bad neighborhoods." I'm like, "Do you mean there's Black people and brown people there? Because I don't know if you noticed." Yeah,
I belong there. Yeah, I belong with these people. Yeah.
The Black people and the brown people, they're okay with me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
It's a lot of, the thing is, I keep equating to, part of my own self-education is started in college. I remember taking a pride and privilege class type thing. It was like a social studies class. And I remember one of the teachers, first thing they asked, like, to open the class was like, hey, what do you think about when you leave the house? Like, what are a few things you think about when you leave the house?
Right.
And like us white guys were like, hey, like, I gotta make sure I got my keys, I gotta maybe sure I got my wallet, and where am I going?
Yeah.
And like, we were kind of like,
yeah.
I mean, what else do you think about when you leave the house?
Right.
And then there was the women and the people of color.
Right.
That were like, oh, well, I think about who's picking me up and all these things.
I think about, like, how I'm dressed, first of all, for where I'm going. Like, if I want to be cute, and how cute do I want to be? And am I, am I going to some place I don't know because I should be wearing shoes I can run in?
Right.
Yes, we think about this. Yes, I think about making absolutely sure every time I leave the house that I have my ID and my car registration and my, do you? Every time you leave the house, like, make sure you remember where you put it, like.
I don't. Yeah. And I that little bit of information sent me swirling. And as at every point that we've had, like, I mean, 2017 was a crazy year for the Black community and Black Lives Matter and all this stuff too. And each time I'm reading a story or I'm ingesting some sort of news article around this, I'm like, it's got to be exhausting. It's all I can, the thing that comes up, I'm like, it's got to be, I mean, it's already exhausting being a human in the world, but to add on these other extra 5, 6, 7 layers of thought process around protection, around timing, around what, I'm not going to wear that tonight because of these other elements. You can't.
Yeah, maybe I better not wear my shirt that says "fuck Trump."
Right. Yeah, maybe not, because I might be in a group of people that we're going to cause trouble.
Yeah.
Or pass by, and I don't know. I'm doing my best along the way to stay awake along the way, because there's part of me that definitely wants to check out, and I know. I have to just own the fact that along the way that I routinely go, oh fuck, do I have to ingest this today? Do I have to be a part of this today? And so, not that anybody's forcing me to do anything, but my yoga practice, my spiritual practice begs of me to remain awake, period.
Right.
It says, even if you have a beer, smoke a joint, stay awake.
Yeah.
Your job is to stay awake.
You live in mindfulness,
Yeah.
And I mean, so many times over this past 4 years, I've heard friends say, I can't watch the news anymore. I'm just not going to pay attention, or I'm not political. It's like,
right.
You wait, because I remember hearing people say that a lot in 2016, like, it's not my thing. And it's like, you just wait, but it's going to come to your house. And God, if it didn't, here it is. It's at all our houses. The COVID-19 is a direct result. The fact that we had to shelter in place, all our whole lives upside down and with absolutely no direction. This is a failure and a crisis, and it came to everyone's house, everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And we could have done something about it. There are so many things that we did, that our government did, that were just boneheaded, and we could have done something about it,
Mm-hmm.
And then again, also the protests,
Right.
I live around the corner from the mayor.
Oh, wow.
So
how's that?
Oh, it hasn't been too bad. There was only one giant protest, but it was giant. I mean, and I didn't know it was happening, and I looked out the window, and all of a sudden there was a sea of people in front of my house.
Oh my gosh, that's right. I did actually see your post. You're like, wait, the protest came to my block.
What? It came to my house. I didn't even have to go anywhere.
Step outside and
defund the police.
That's right.
It was amazing. But that's what I mean. All of us, we don't really have a choice anymore. It's really forced the issue. And in a way, like I said, there's I'm one of those, the darkest hour before the dawn people. Mm-hmm. I feel like it takes pain and pressure to create a diamond, to create the good stuff. And we, people have to be pushed. Otherwise, we want to sit in our comfort,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. You think about it. I think about it in this way, that when things are good, that's the easiest time to check out, right? When things don't seem like, oh, I mean, it's good. Like there's food down at the store. There's, I can go wherever I want. I can do all this stuff. So we're like in the roller coaster going, wee.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh shit. Well, we didn't expect all that, but then it's that pain and that discomfort that actually gives us the opportunity to wake up. Because and when you're trying to get out of pain, when you're trying to alleviate or fix it, man, you're awake. You're like, you're hot. You're
Ow, 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 ow.
No, not that. Yes, that. No, not that. Yeah. And so I feel like that's where we're at in a way. We're like, oh wait, this is super uncomfortable, everybody. Yeah, it sure is. Guess who's been living with this the whole time? Mm-hmm. Stop and listen. Let's stop and listen. Can we move towards the uncomfortability in a way that is sincere? Mm-hmm. Sincerely curious about like how does this get corrected? Yeah. How can I be an ally to the movement? How can I help alleviate some suffering? I mean, I can't fix everything or even maybe very much of anything, but there's something in everyone's sphere that we can affect, some little something. And I think, and that, again, I weigh back on my spiritual practice, my yoga practice, that the reason why I practice and the reason why I've been called to teach is to see if I can take the edge off for a couple of people this lifetime. Yeah. That's it, for myself and for a couple friends, who shows up.
That's beautiful. That really is. And it's the voice that you listened to get there is a voice that a lot of people are too busy to hear. They're too distracted by by all the stuff that doesn't matter. And I don't want to be distracted by all the things. I know it's painful. I have a lot of practice, and that's my favorite word of that is the word practice, because it doesn't indicate that you're ever going to accomplish anything, that you're ever going to graduate, that you're ever going to get there, Yeah. And that's good for me, because I'm not. My sister says I'm a know-it-all, and I am. I know a lot of things. Sure. But I don't know the most about a lot of things. I just know a lot of things because I really am interested in things. I'm interested in a whole bunch of. I'm a Sagittarius. I am interested in anything. Are you?
Same.
What's your birthday?
November 28th.
Woo!
You're December 11th, huh?
I'm a December Sag. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing. It's like we get to explore and learn and keep learning. And I don't consider myself an expert because I know a lot of things. I just know a little bit about a lot of things, Mm-hmm. And that's okay. I can stay in the middle and keep going, I definitely don't want to get to the end, whatever that is, that's not my goal. I don't want to be like the one with all the prizes.
Vicki, that's why you're just exposing more of why we resonate well together. Other than the Sag thing, but like I'm so in on the practice part of it, because it's like in the Yoga Sutras, it talks about how you're totally entitled to your work. Okay, you're entitled to the work, to do the work, to awaken, but you're not entitled, or you can't, or you got to let go of the expectation of the end result, right? And how it will unfold necessarily. But if you continue to show up and to do the work, a common saying in yoga is practice and all is coming. Yeah. All is coming. It's on its way. So don't worry about the next step. Just do what's right here, right in front of you, right here in this moment. And it's not called a perfect, it's called a practice.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, because people say, oh, I'm not good at yoga, or I'm not good at talking. I said the same thing, and I got called out, and I was like, I'm not good at podcasting, I'm not going to do it. And my friend Moon was like, you're not going to be ever good at it.
How do you get better at it?
Yeah. I'm like, okay, fine.
Yeah. The only problem is that I don't like to try to get better at things while people are watching me, because
that can be tough. That can be tough.
And podcasting is basically that, you know.
It is. It is.
I've definitely I definitely got that exact lesson from being on a talk show for 18 years.
Yeah.
It was like 5 days a week, and whatever you did yesterday that was great doesn't mean you're going to be able to reproduce it tomorrow, because all the conditions will be different. And whatever you did today that was, oh my God, I just dropped a giant bell on the floor while Jay was doing his monologue. And then he led the audience over. Oh, Vicki, do you have something to say? Yeah. So those things happened, and you know, it's like you wipe it and you start over again the next day. And it really was an incredible lesson, because I could both see myself getting better at certain things, getting better at technical things, but I also saw myself getting better at just letting go. You know, like what I did the day before, just letting go of it and starting over and continuing to do it. And it's really informed. That's been an amazing lesson. It's really informed my whole my whole outlook on life. You know. Yeah.
Not being too precious.
Yeah.
That's something that was introduced to me during a band practice, a rehearsal, trying to be, you know, it's, well, no, this is the way the riff goes, bro. Like, you got to know it's in 5/4 and it's got to have the upstroke. It's like, it's this way. And somebody's like, well, okay, let's try. Can we try it a different way though? Because like nobody's getting that. Like, it's tricky. We get that you're tricky. It's fine. Maybe there's a different way. And, you know, and I'm like, you know, and my ego is like,
oh God, that is a constant, because that's a constant thing for me to battle. I am absolutely that person that you're talking about, because it goes this way, you know. Yeah. And like, I want to hear it this way first before we start doing something else. And like, you know, the other band members are like, well, maybe we could try, you know. And then I like anguish, you know.
Take a deep breath.
Because I did it again, you know. It's like, it's supposed to be this way. Yeah.
Oh, and even though I know better now that I have that about myself, right?
Yeah, I'm fully aware. While I'm doing it, I'm fully aware. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Anguish.
What is that? Like, to be fully aware that you're like basically doing the wrong thing, yet, you know what? I'm going to dig my heels in deeper.
Yeah.
You guys go ahead and try. Go ahead.
Good.
Go ahead. Come at me. It's like, well, all right. So band practice is over now, Vicki. Oh. We've spent the whole time trying to work on your riff and convince you that we could just shift it 2 millimeters to the right. And it would probably work for everybody. But, you know, I know the thing.
It is kind of humiliating to be a human being sometimes.
God, it's so embarrassing.
The thing about that is that, like, why is it that I don't get better at that at the same rate that I can get better at learning a riff? You know? Why is that?
I mean,
and this is the reason why I think we're so attached to the riff, because I can learn the riff. I can do the thing, you know? I know how to do that. Self-reflection, like,
well, you know, I think the major thing, well, at least in my world, is that you know, you can't see your own eyes, like with your own eyes, without the mirror. You have to have a reflection, right? And you have to have this relationship to work on oneself. It takes other. You can work on the riff by yourself in a room, on an island, like where you're going, what you're doing. You're the judge, the executioner, the jury. You decide like when and where. But when it comes to relationship, like we're in each other's hands.
No.
And we have to. I know you're like, no,
Please, no.
I know.
Let me tell you how ready I was for this shelter in place without seeing other people.
You're just like,
Please.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good here with my gear and my.
Me too.
Yeah, totally. It's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the first whole couple months I was in LA still. I just moved back to my hometown, Chico, California.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been up here just about a month, but the first couple of months I was stuck in LA, and I was just like, okay, this is going to last a while, then I might leave, because I don't want to I mean, LA is cool and it's great, but I can't go hang out with anybody. I came here to be, if you're in LA, you're there so that you're close to the people that you're going to work with or whatever,
right.
Usually, right? You're not there because, I love being around a lot of people. That's great.
No.
Traffic is amazing.
Traffic. Yeah. Also, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I mean, Los Angeles and the industry attracts industry people. The industry there's an ethos there of, I'm here to sell you something. I'm here to get it. I'm here to do it. I'm not here for you. I'm here to do my thing. And it's not just like a place where you go to live. And there are plenty of people who just live there. I mean, I grew up there. I really did. But it's mostly, I mean, especially around our industry, the entertainment, music, art, most of the people who are there to do that thing. And so it creates a difficulty having relationships that aren't based on commerce, and that's one of the things that made it harder than just being here in Oakland and living with a bunch of people, and some of them happen to be musicians. It's like everyone in LA has a screenplay or a demo,
Every one of them's a producer. Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like everybody was wondering, like, so when I moved there a year ago, I moved there in like May of last year, and
I didn't know you moved there.
Yeah, because I was living in Santa Rosa, and Benicia, and I was commuting to Benicia for Dunlop and everything.
Right.
And I was just like, I got offered this kind of part-time gig, half-time gig with Kiesel guitars, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll go down there and I'll just check it out, because I've worked down there for 10, 15 years, but I knew I didn't really want to live down there, but I thought, well, I had an opportunity. Okay, I could start the podcast. I could do and go independent and still help out Dunlops, do this stuff with Kiesel. I thought this would be an interesting experiment. Maybe I'll go for a year or two, and then get out just to say I did, and experience it for myself. And there was some great things that happened. I mean, like it's not. I could, living in Santa Rosa, Fred Armisen wouldn't have just stopped by my house, But living in Hollywood, he just stopped by my house a couple times, and we hang out. He does the podcast. Like there's good little things about it, but it's kind of a high cost to be around so many people that, like, the majority of people, like you said, are there. They're there for their own thing. They're selling something, and when you actually call on them to be involved, it's like cancel. Like you're like, so 1 out of every 30 appointments, you get a solid one, and you're like, okay, this is how it is here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm thankful I got out. I mean, even though I'm, super down to be in the protests and everything, I'm glad I got out of there before the riots and all this stuff happened, and I just, because I want to be close to family anyway. If the world's ending, I'm like, hey, like if we got 5 minutes left, like I want to be close to my mom, close to my dad,
right,
my brother before this is over with. I know that's kind of sounds silly, but at the same time,
it doesn't at all. It's pretty real. That's one of the reasons why I came back to Oakland. My whole family is from the Bay Area. I was born here, and my dad, just like every musician, moved to LA to do the thing, and so that's how I got raised up in LA. But we still, we were bi-statal. My family was still up here. So when I graduated from high school, basically I just moved back, and I stayed here and worked here until I got the Tonight Show gig. But I was constantly in LA. I mean, because everybody was in LA, you know.
Mhm.
I would fly down and do a week's worth of rehearsals at like Center Staging or whatever those places were.
Third Encore, or Mates.
SIR, yeah.
Yeah, SIR.
And then you know, go out on tour from there. But basically, I spent a whole lot of time around the periphery, but not actually living there. And once I actually lived there again, it just felt like my soul was getting crushed. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not trying to disparage the actual people and the actual relationships I had with people there, because
Sure.
I had great relationships with people there. And not everybody is like that all the time, and not everybody is like that. But
Right.
it it's a it's an industry town, you know. It's like it being in Detroit and not working in the auto industry, you know.
Yeah.
Like there's not that much to talk about, you know. And I always felt like, I mean, sometimes I would get involved with someone in a person, what I thought was a personal way, and then have them like give me a demo. Like
Uh,
I was like, "Fuck, how?"
I thought we were
You know,
friends.
I thought, yeah, no,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or the other big one was they had a car that they wanted to sell to Jay, you know. Say, listen, yeah. So,
Wow.
and that was kind of a constant thing, and it was always just like, ah, you know,
I do. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I feel very similar in that way, that like I have so many great friends and people that I love working with in LA, and I actually enjoy my trips to LA.
yeah,
But I was like, yeah, 4 or 5 days, then I get out, and then I don't have to do the thing anymore. And
yeah.
I officially know that now after living there. But it's funny to say, I've met one person, and that person was Fred Armisen. When he did the podcast, he's so funny, but I was like, so I don't know, we know what my question was to him, but he goes, I just love waking up in LA. I love this place. I love driving around LA. And I'm like, oh my, I was like, you are the only one that I've ever heard that's just like, I mean, other people don't mind where they live, but he was just so emphatic about it. No,
He's
I
like a
love,
booster.
yeah. I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be a few of you. And,
Yeah,
so there you are. That's one.
I think I there's there are people for whom that whole situation is really works, and I more power to them, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's definitely not mine, and I definitely, part of the reason is because I definitely need more time to myself. I need alone time. Um I need recharging time. It takes away from me. I'm essentially an introvert. It takes away from me to interact with people a lot. Um, and the only way I get replenished is by being by myself, you know?
Mm.
So it's just not my thing, you know, to be around people all the time. And some people that's how they recharge. That's why this COVID thing is it's really hurting people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
who need to be interacting with other human beings. I'm really lucky. I'm, I feel like sometimes, you know, like I tend to depression. I have bouts of it, and I also sort of tend to. I call myself a realist, but other people call me a pessimist, because I can always see what could be worse.
Sure, sure.
Like, oh, this could be worse, you know. But I feel like those of us who have lived around people who are super positive, super extroverted, like we have, for this particular time, we have skills that I've been basically helping, or not helping, but talking to people who are going through a really hard time because they can't interact with other humans, and
Mm.
saying, well, this is how I do it. I don't know if it'll help you, but this is how I do it, and this is what I see. And I actually feel like my sort of innate realism um, has helped me deal with this, because it isn't as bad as it could be.
Correct. Yeah. It's funny. I've had to learn that about myself, that I would actually say that I'm like 55% like introvert and then 45% extrovert. But for the longest time, I really thought, oh, I'm mostly an extrovert, and
Yeah,
I would overextend myself into
right.
all the friendships and everything. Oh no, I've got to stay out, and like people
Yeah,
want this part of to see this part of me, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. And then I would just fall flat on my face and not be
right.
able to operate. And then over time, like, oh, I need that quiet time. I need to be left alone. I need to have nothing going on in the house for hours so that I can think, so
Right.
that I can
Like
collect.
people who listen to things all the time,
Mm-hmm.
like that's exhausting to me because
Mm-hmm.
I can't when there's first of all, there's no such thing as background music. Do you agree with me?
Agreed. Yes.
I mean, I know you're a yoga dude, but like there's no such thing as background music.
No,
Music is music, and
that's
if
right.
music is playing, I'm listening to it, and
Same.
it's I'm interacting with it, and I so that means that there's part of my mind that isn't working in a way that it could be if I
Mm.
don't have silence, you know?
Uh,
It's just true.
no, so I actually do. I help teach other teachers about how to use music.
Mm,
Okay, because I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. I'm a really good playlist maker. I'm really
right
good at
on.
utilizing music in yoga, right? And I feel like there's three main kind of like philosophies around that. Like in a yoga class, it's either you're not using music because you want every word to hang in the room so that everybody can hear you,
Right.
can clearly understand what you're asking them to do,
Yeah.
right? And then if you're going to use music, it should be kind of, it should be used as background music. It should be low, it should be unobtrusive. There are no lyrics, no words that are going to pull away. It should just be a little part of the container of the room, you know,
Yeah.
so that it feels like, if you want to soften the vibe, if you need to do something like this, you shape it with this low music, and it's not very loud, so that again, so it can still it can kind of stay out of the way a little bit.
Yeah.
Or my favorite, I like all the versions, but my favorite way is like, go ahead, make a playlist with lyrics and make all that stuff, but you better be on point, and you better be on timing, and you better not be trying to talk at the same time the lyrics are always trying to talk. And that's the advanced version of it, and so
Hmm.
if you're gonna, then that's usually at advanced classes where you have a bunch of people that kind of know what they're doing already, so you
Right.
can call it out, and they don't need every last bit of instruction. They know
Right.
where they're at, and it's cool. But I agree that music wise, like, I mean, if you're going to use it in a room or a setting or a party or anything, you should be using it intentionally, is what I'm getting at,
Right.
really.
Right.
Right?
Again, with mindfulness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a practice of any kind? Do you have a spiritual practice?
I meditate. I have wandered through Buddhism for years. I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist. Um, I wouldn't call myself in anything. I
Hmm.
basically tell people I'm an agnostic, but I definitely meditate. Um,
What does that do for you?
and I need a reminder constantly of how to get here because when I don't sit regularly, I don't get I you know everything is like a squirrel. Everything, absolutely everything.
Mm,
And when I do, um, it it helps me to focus, um, and it helps me to sit in myself, and it helps me to. It doesn't take me. It's funny because a lot of people talk about meditation as a way to get somewhere,
mm.
but for me, it's a way to sit in myself and notice myself and be, you know, um, and somehow that helps. That's as spiritual as I get.
That's that's more spiritual than most, to be honest. Because for me, I raised Christian, and struggled with it for a while, and at one point kind of just said, I'm going to put that on the shelf.
Hmm.
And then yoga came along when I was early 20s and kind of introduced meditation to me in a way, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. This actually as a practice, and then when I'm done with doing the physical thing, I feel good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a bunch of words at me saying you should, and you're probably going to go to hell. And the thing that, don't look at her because she's cute. And don't do all these things. I'm like, how am I supposed to even live that life? It's like set up for failure,
Well, also, the same, I mean, you get to see the same people who are, doing the words, not living the life. And then what is this? What is
Right.
this that, that the people who are saying the words aren't doing it?
Right.
Like you're not modeling the behavior, but you're still saying the words.
That's my main kind of beef in that particular sector of things. Cause I'm super open to everybody. My mom's still very Christian, and it's been interesting. The more I've furthered into meditation and yoga, and especially as I become a teacher, she's been really interested. Like, does this mean that you don't believe in Jesus? And I'm like, Mom,
Mm-hmm.
I go, I'm just kind of 50-50 on the whole Jesus thing anyway. Like, it's cool. Like I love the teachings, but I can't get into the modern Christianity and the way it's taught. And she will listen to a handful of these kind of big mega church guys, and I'm like, every once in a while, at first I was like, can't you see the disparity here? Like, this is kind of like saying this, they're doing that. They've got millions of dollars. They're not really contributing, and drawing the lines out. And at first I was going that direction. And then I thought, oh, that's not real. I don't want to harsh on her thing. Like, she gets so much joy from the thing and from praising God the way that she praises and the way that she believes.
Yeah.
And I love her so much. And I want her to be happy.
Yeah.
That I'm like, cool, tell me about it. Oh, really? Is that your feel? Oh, you feel really good? Oh, then I'm so happy. I got nothing else to say.
That's awesome.
Because, I just literally, like, I don't know how long ago it was, but it's been probably a decade or more where something came to me and I was like, oh man, that thought of like, life is short, be kind. And, I'm not always kind, let me tell you, despite having that thing, right? But that's the reoccurring lesson. And I'm like, okay. And I'm often saying, oh, well, we got 5 minutes left. What are you going to do with it? 5 minutes left. Okay, let's just, not literally 5 minutes, but like kind of a figurative 5 minutes. Like, what, there's not much time left anyway. So how are you going to spend it being upset? Are you going to spend it like berating somebody for their situation? Are you going to spend it doing something that matters? Maybe that's better, maybe, are you going to do it like sowing the seeds of love? Are you going to do it in a way that is meaningful to others and that brings us together? That's what I want. I want to spend my last few minutes doing something good, whatever that means at that moment, and if that means, being misunderstood from time to time, because people would think I'm not aggressive enough in my approach.
Mm-hmm.
And if only they knew my younger self, I was so aggressive. It's like Pantera all day, every day for a while because I was so mad at the world.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I still have that, but I've evolved. So I just hope that for everyone, that everyone finds the sense of being like, wow, like this body will expire.
Mm-hmm.
It's functional now, but it will expire. So, so with this functionality, where's your allegiance? Like, where do you put that energy? There's a finite amount of energy left in these cells, and this vision, and this heartbeat, and this breath. Maybe we use it as an example of kindness, an example of forgiveness, and an example of an attempt to cultivate love.
Right. Well, again, this is why you affect me so deeply, because I can look at you, white guy, and see the different directions you could have gone. You could have stayed there. You could have stayed angry Pantera guy. Yeah. You could have, I mean, it's interesting to me now. I have a group of friends, and part of it's because of the music that I'm playing now, which is not like cerebral, jazz, whatever, like the worlds that I was in before. but it's just kind of raw and funky and awesome. And some of the people that I am involved with now, like there's a couple guys who used to be skinheads, you know, like, and I watch people transform in these amazing ways, and you know, everybody's a different path. Who knows how it happens, but to watch you turn that guy into this guy, you know, each one of us has to start right here, right? I mean, a lot of people get overwhelmed by the struggle, by the process of it, because you look outside, the world is blowing up. It's like there's a movement happening for justice and for justice, and people want to start in the middle. Like, where do I go to make a change? You know, well, for most of us, where you go to make the change is here. Where you go to make the change is you start doing that thing that you were talking about before, working with other people to help reflect and look at what I'm doing every day. Am I being the best person I can be every day? And the answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is always no. Yeah, absolutely not. You know, I am not being the best person. But you know, this is where I get to start. And when I start with my relationships, my immediate relationships, you know, my patience with my niece or my bandmates or my, you know, my patience with the person who's taking a really long time to do something, and I don't want it to take a long time, you know, like every time I can stop putting impatience or unkindness or snapping it, every time I can change that and work with that is one more step in the direction. You know, I want to be an example of I want to be an example of something positive. I don't want to be the thing like, don't let this happen to you, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, but it really it just does my heart so much good to talk to you and to listen to you. You know, and despite the fact that on a daily basis, I mean, it's the reality of living in brown skin, the reality of being a woman, the reality of being a lesbian is daunting every day. Every day, on some level, I hear something or interact with someone in a way that pushes me back, that reminds me that not everybody thinks that I deserve to be here. And when somebody like you says, no, I want you to feel love. I want you to feel loved, you know? It's, you know, it really, it's like a burning sun. It erases a whole bunch of that stuff. It's so powerful. And I want to thank you.
Oh, Vicki, thank you. What a kind words to hear from you. I honestly, I mean, I knew that we would have a good conversation. Let me say that, but there is a little bit of part of me that was like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Can I hang with Vicki because she's so awesome? Like, this is just my own internal dialogue, you know. And because I also there's this part of me as a white person that's kind of like, who am I to speak up about anything? You know, and there's that part of it, and then I sit with it and I let myself be quiet. I listen, I do some more study, do my yoga or whatever it is, and then I realize, oh yeah, like not a lot of people are going to take the risk. You know, like or I don't say not a lot of people. I think a lot of people are, but like, how do I say it? It's and it feels somewhat awkward, like, just to like say, nobody else is me doing the things that I do,
right?
That has the desire to speak up and to engage the conversation, right? So if I don't do it, then who? I mean, somebody will, but they're not going to do it the way I'm going to do it.
And they're not going to touch the people that you touch. They're not going to, there are people who need to hear it from you. There are people who need to know that you feel the way you feel,
Mm.
who can only hear it from you, you know?
Mm.
That's why there's so many of us. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It reminds me of the blocks that I've had around making music or doing creative stuff in the public sphere, like where I'm like, because I've worked with the greatest in the world, I feel like, you know, when you're hanging around like legends and you're just like, okay, then I come home to my instruments and my guitar and I'm like, "Hi."
Yeah.
Dead. Like, I don't, what am I gonna, how do I even, and then, and you know, it's like, take some space, take a deep breath. Do you enjoy touching the instrument? Yes, Chris, you do. Okay. Pick it up,
Yeah.
have fun with it.
Yeah.
Don't work at it from here, work at it from here.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's part of what I'm on the planet for, honestly, is to for my own embodiment, to learn how to embody this flesh to the best of its ability, while it's still able, you know, like I really, I can't say that enough. I say it a lot in yoga class. I'm like, look, especially when they're laying there at the very end, I'm like, look, you're good, right? You got through this class. Like, this body did most of the things you asked it to do. There's going to be a time when somebody says, hey, want to go do the thing? And you go, I don't know. Are there stairs?
Yes.
He's gonna,
Yes.
if you're lucky, that's going to be a thing someday. But you're not saying that today.
Mm-hmm.
So get up, go do the thing. You know, find a way, you know, to pull yourself out into the. Cause I've been dealing more with depression in the last couple of years, heavily in different modes through relationship and through a little bit of this whole thing too. But and I've had to like see other friends that are going through similar things, and I'm like, let's just go for a walk. Let's get in our bodies. Let's go breathe.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that whole thing of using meditation to show up here now has been, I mean, that's been the biggest thing, because the body lives now. It's not, the body isn't worried about yesterday or what's happening tomorrow. It's living in this moment all the time. So when we slow it down and we focus on the breath, we listen to the heartbeat, we feel the body from inside the skin, and we remember, we go, oh, what this is it. This is the meaning of life, to live.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my thing.
Yeah.
You know,
That's being physical is sort of part of my brand. Like, people know me as the girl that goes hurtling down the, you know, hurtling down the hills with two dogs, you know, hoping that neither one of them sees a squirrel. And it's part of my, like, if I don't do something physically every day, it really affects everything. It affects my I don't believe these parts of me are separate. I believe they're all integrated, and it feels that way. My spiritual life, my emotional life, my mental life, my physical life, you know, it's all together. And if I don't engage in something physical, I think that's one of the reasons why live performing is so much more interesting to me than recording, because live performing is not only doing something relatively physical. I mean, what I do, I play, you know, congas, I play, you know, but what I do is sort of big and physical, and singing is big and physical, and doing that, it feels like I just get on this river of energy, and it flows out to the people, and it comes back from the people. And if there's something I miss as regards this COVID-19 shelter in place thing, it's being able to get on that wheel of energy that goes back and forth between me and the people, you know?
yeah.
Because you don't experience it the same way when you're playing by yourself. You don't get the same feedback. It's you know, it's really hard. And I know it's going to happen again. It's not going to be the same. Our lives are never going to be the same. I don't know how many years it's going to take before we get back to playing indoors, you know?
It's gonna be interesting to see.
It really is. And so I'm I'm conniving. It's like, how do we figure out a way to do this and create these scenes outside somewhere or behind a fence or something, cameras, something, some way where we can actually interact with and hear and watch and, because,
Yeah.
and anybody who thought that, the arts are non-essential, just, just has to pay attention to what you do every day, here all by yourself, People are absolutely relying on the arts to keep them sane,
100%. I
Yeah.
mean, you have the song "Music Saves My Life."
Right. Right.
That was one of the little moments. It was like, oh, Vicki, I had a little cry. It's like, I love her, and I just like, because I hear that loud and clear. And I mean, how many times have you heard, especially fans, after a gig with Mavis or Skip the Needle or any of these groups where somebody comes up and like, man, your music helps me get through, like listening to you, seeing you perform reminds me that life is not as bad as it could be, or it gives me some sort of hope to face that challenge straight on. But because we've had it so good in a way for so long, let's say we've been coasting in a lot of ways, especially the whitewashed elements of society.
Right.
We kind of like, and music has been devalued, sadly, right? The actual music has been devalued through technology, and everybody's had to make a pivot to continue to make a living, right? You have to get good at merch. You have to get good at the live shows that can't happen right now. Like you have to do all there's all these other things because the music is seen as kind of almost free, like depending on how you interact with your fans. And I guess I'm kind of maybe losing my point, but
but
I just go ahead.
I mean, it is true. We've had to get really good at things that we thought. It's funny because the more technology was involved, it was sort of backing us away from live music, from live performances. And now what's really interesting is that that's all that people want to see. People want to see you. I don't know why. I want to see it. I have a friend who's doing, Jonathan Brooke, who's doing Mondays at noon from, I think she lives on the East Coast. I can't remember where she lives. Anyway, it's Mondays at noon. It's like, here, Pacific time. And she's just going through all her records and performing. And I want to see her play those songs. I want to see her do them live in her kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
And there's an intimacy that this has allowed that we didn't have before. It was kind of like big shows coming at us, and that can't happen now. So people are actually having to create make those contacts with their fans. It's why people are doing it in a way, like doing it in Insta or Facebook Live, where they can see comments and interact with people real time. So it's really actually, I think this is a good thing because it's reminding people that live music, as we do it, watching people do it, interacting with people, watching them make mistakes, is the point of it. It's creating it while it's happening. It's not just listening to something in the studio that somebody tweaked and made perfect.
Right.
Because if that was true, people would just listen to records and watch concert videos, and that's not what's happening. People really want to see us do the thing, and I want to see it. I want to see my favorite artists, like sit with a guitar or another guitar player, or listen or sing to tracks or whatever they do. I want to see them do it.
My favorite, one of my favorite all-time artists of all time is Erykah Badu, and
when she did that, yes.
These quarantine sessions, oh my god! I like the second one. I had my whole living room cleared out, had it all set up, cranked up, just so there was like dancing room.
Yeah.
And when she would go from one room, we would vote from how to get, she would had all the rooms set up in her house.
Yes.
We would vote, oh, we're going back over to this room.
Yes.
And it'd be black and white in that room. And they would do the same song or do the song in a different vibe. I was like, this is what,
Yeah.
this is light in the tunnel. This is like the silver lining, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is to get to see your creative people that you really have held in your heart for so long get creative in this way.
Right. Continue to be creative. Yeah. And adapt.
And I think that's actually been some of my favorite artists. Like, are when you know, as I watched, you know, as you have too, watched the movement from it being like all about the record sales and all this stuff to going, wait, there's no record sales, like there's very little radio play that like gets, you know, it's like it's all kind of shifting. And but I kept saying, okay, wait a second, we're the creatives though. Like are we gonna like just take this on the nose and be like, okay, so it just sucks now. It just sucks, and I'm going to complain about it. And I mean, there's good reason to complain. There's good reason to push back on the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Good reason. I totally encourage artists, especially that have a catalog that's worth something, to negotiate with Spotify, to negotiate with iTunes, to go back and say, no, you don't get it. You don't get it for nothing.
Yeah.
You get it for something, and this is something I need. Otherwise, you know, I'll use my own platform, and people get it from me the way they get it from me. And I know that's a touchy situation because not every artist is big enough to have that kind of pull or demand, but you can have integrity along the way,
right?
And you can speak up for yourself. But to see someone like Erykah and a few others really just take it to task and go, okay, this is what we got. Psh, I'll show you.
I'll show you. Freaking Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift made it clear that, like, when Taylor came out and said, this is the amount, I'm the biggest selling artist in the world. This is the amount I get from freaking streaming, you know? Right. It's like, there is no chance you're going to make any money. We have to do something about this. I was like, go ahead, Taylor Swift. Yeah. I forgot to take my Swiftamine that day.
Oh my! Yeah, that's a good indicator. I did hear about that. I didn't read the details on that, but
she tweeted it or something. I don't know. That was a while ago. But the fact is that streaming sucks, and you know, not a single musician is ever going to make a dime off of that. It's ridiculous, and it was a model that snuck in under the wire, and our aged, like, you know, slow-moving congressional situation, years and years of lobbying and trying to get them to understand that Spotify and, you know, all of them are, you know, like, this isn't a sustainable model, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're playing our music and we're getting nothing. How is that okay?
Yeah, it's just not.
Radio play. Nobody listens to the radio. No. Come on.
we got Spotify and these things so that we wouldn't have the ads. We pay our money to not have the ads so that we can have on-demand music. But then it's like it sucks because I'm a Spotify user. I don't know how to boycott it because I love it so much. But the artists that I really love, I buy vinyl for. Because I love having vinyl, and I obviously buy merch, and you find ways to support, and a handful of the really creative, like most of them are kind of like mid-level, smaller artists, but they've done a really good job of utilizing Bandcamp, and going to Bandcamp. That's what
we did.
Yeah, pushing the artists, say, hey, look, we're doing all our special stuff through here. I know it's small, it's a small piece, but oftentimes the people that do go there tend to support in a bigger way.
Right.
They're like your diehards are the ones that don't mind spending the money to do the thing. They'll, you know.
No, I mean, a lot of times on Bandcamp, and I do this too, if somebody's selling a single on Bandcamp for $1, I give them 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that happens a lot for us. I mean, people just throw money at us through Bandcamp because they don't have a set need to put in a set price, and it's incredible. People who support us really support us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to shift it. I want to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to tell me about. Would you please tell us about your relationship to guitar picks, and you remember at all, like in your early days of learning guitar, like what your first guitar pick was at all?
No, because I don't play guitar that way.
Oh.
Here's the deal. I play guitar like this. And I always have.
I could have swore that maybe it's because you hold it the way you hold it. I thought you had a guitar pick.
I do not. And although I do use, especially now, because I've been doing a lot more, like sort of traditional Spang-a-lang kind of, So I definitely use a pick when I have to, and I'll know how to use a pick. True story. Did you know that Kevin Eubanks, who plays with his thumb, like the Wes Montgomery style,
Totally,
went to. There was some question as to whether or not he was going to be able to graduate from Berkeley, because you have to use a pick to graduate from the guitar.
Yeah.
Like someone who is that exemplary a guitar player, still like, and he was like, this is the way I play.
So you had to go back and kind of learn something?
No, he refused to do it, and there was like a thing, and so they,
Amazing.
And then of course years later, they're like, Berkeley graduate Kevin Eubanks, leader of the Tonight Show band. Like,
right. God damn it.
People, there's always something. It's always something, This is one of my favorite picks, though. You have to see it.
I love boobies.
Yes!
Hell yeah.
It was for breast cancer, keep a breast thing. And so Ernie Ball made Check Yourself and I Love Boobies picks. And these are two of my favorite picks in the entire world.
Oh, those are awesome. Love it. Are they thinner, or are they thicker, or medium, or?
They're medium, like, straight up medium, like regular.
It's got a little bit of flex, but still stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite picks, this is one, it's the 73s. This is a Martin pick.
Nice.
But those are my favorites. Those are the ones that and then my absolute, this is the last one. I have a whole bunch of picks, but I couldn't find them, because of all those years of being at the Tonight Show and getting picks from people, especially like Cheap Trick, and the
yeah.
I have about 1 million Cheap Trick picks around here somewhere, but I don't know where the picks are that I have from the different people. But this is my pick.
Oh, that's cool.
Is
that a Koru or? Oh,
it's this.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Where does that symbol come from?
It can be a couple. It's the shape of it on this is a Mitsue, which is just a Japanese version. But this symbol shows up in many cultures, and it's the Trinity. It's the Triskele in Celtic culture, and it's the interaction of earth, air, and water, like that elemental, and the short version, the short version I liked of the definition of it was power in motion. And so I used it on my picks. So these are my picks.
I dig that. Does Ernie Ball make those picks too?
What?
Does Ernie Ball make those picks too?
No, I got some random person to make them. I should get Dunlop to make some.
Absolutely.
Man, Dunlop, make me some picks, Dunlop. Make me some picks.
Daryl, what you doing, man? He just called me the other day. We were talking, catching up. I love that guy.
Yeah. So for the most part, I play like this, and I play sort of arpeggio guitar, so I don't,
Yeah.
And of course, I don't use a pick on a bass because, it's just,
It's mostly not needed. It's a very unique thing, unique sound, and
Yeah.
and thing that you need with a good pick and a bass.
It's a, you know, it's there. I know a lot of great bass players, I mean, who do that, but
Sure.
I can't get it together. It's just not something that works for me. This works for me, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So there you go.
Well, thanks for sharing. It's always good to find out. I always think it's a funny thing too, because not a lot of people talk about guitar picks, and that's why
Yeah.
I worked with Dunlop for so long, and I was like, it'd be kind of fun to just like ask a bunch of people about their history with guitar picks, and you know, you get some short stories and you get some long stories, and
Yeah.
it's a fun place to jump off of. We didn't have to even have that to jump off today, but
We just started in. You have a forearm tattoo, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
This is from the Devin Townsend project. I'm an honorary member,
Huh.
DTP, and it has a bit of an you know, kind of a infinity symbol there. But back in 2011, Devin and I became good friends when I was back at Ampeg and Ampeg and Mackie, and we also had Alvarez guitars, and I made him an acoustic guitar that was like a baritone and really cool. So I did 3 guitars there. I did one for Dev, one for Ani DeFranco,
Oh, right.
and one for Glenn Hansard, if you know Glenn.
Yeah.
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 And, three incredible people in my life. Devin being the most important, because we actually became really good friends. And
That's awesome.
And after I made him this guitar, he's like, "Buddy, I don't know how to repay you." I'm like, "You don't have to repay. I'm doing my job. Like, it's just cool that we're friends." Like, and then he called me one day and he's like, "Can you go to London?" And I was like, "I'll find a way. Why are we going to London?" He's like if it's with you, I'll figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, I want you to play second guitar for the DVD filming for
What?
the album." And I was like, okay, like yes. And he's like, and I said, "You know that I'm going to."
I guess so.
Yeah. He's like, "Well, because I was living in Seattle at the time," and he said he drove down from BC to give me lessons on all the songs, which was super cool. So I have like some videos, and he, you know, showed me how to play all the songs, and we did it kind of last minute while I was moving from Seattle to the Bay Area, which was crazy.
That sounds like fun.
But super fun, crazy, but super fun at the same time. We got to London, and it was such a wonderful time. Spent 4 days, and we did 4 records back to back. And I got to be, my main show was the last night. It was the closing night at the Union Chapel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We did with Mavis did a live series, a live show
Oh, really?
record. Yeah, there.
Can I find it online somewhere?
You can.
Okay.
You can find it everywhere, you know.
I'll look
It's
for that.
it's Anti-Records.
Anti-Records.
Yeah, and it's a live show. It's cameras and everything,
Cool.
and plus a record, you know.
What kind of guitar is that? I'm trying to look at that logo.
I know. I wanted to shout out Santa Cruz Guitars because, you know, they're the awesome. And I've got 2 of their guitars, and they're an amazing guitar company. They're almost exclusively doing special order guitars now. They used to, you know, they were getting bigger, and Richard, I think, just decided that's not what we want to do. I want to make guitars. You know, I want to hand make guitars. So
it's a cool logo, and I respect that.
So cool. Yeah.
When somebody goes, "Oh, it's too big. I'm going to step back. I want to keep it quality high." And
I know, right?
Yeah,
they're amazing people. Yeah, and
Santa
you
Cruz
should check
Guitars.
out Santa Cruz Guitars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling us about that.
Yeah, man.
And I guess one of the other things I'm just always interested in is like, what have you been listening to lately? And is there maybe an artist or two that not a lot of people know about that more people should know about?
Because of the COVID situation, I have been listening to a lot of, I already mentioned Jonathan Brooke. I've been listening to a lot of solo singer-songwriters because of like visiting people through the, you know, through the Zoom. And I've been, besides my own bandmates, you know, like Katie Cash and Coffee Brown has a new record that has had to come out in the COVID times.
Oh, wow.
Which, you know, like but it's there. Also, B. Steadwell who is an amazing artist. Like she does what do you call it? Looping.
Okay, yeah.
Vocals, great vocalist, great writer, like just super interesting. And somebody who like probably not a lot of people will know about, but will eventually. Her name's Genesis Furman, and she's a singer-songwriter who's just unbelievable, you know?
Cool name. Genesis Furman?
Yeah, unbelievable singer-songwriter. So I'm just like, I've been doing a lot of these with people, a lot of these like, you know, streaming from your house kinds of things with a group of other singer-songwriters. And those are the ones that I've just been like, that are in my head right now. But I know I'm going to leave like somebody really important out, you know?
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, that's enough for us
There
to
you go.
check
That's
out.
a handful.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's like new music, especially during these times when we're not in that same place of going out to shows, and then we get turned on to a new band because the first three bands we didn't know anything about, and we were just going to see the headliner.
Right.
Like that's not happening right now, right? Like in the same way that it used to.
Well, it's kind of happening in the same way that people are combining sort of well-known artists with other artists. Some artists are collaborating that way.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Dragging along people who, you know, who you should be able to listen to, but you're not going to because we don't have any opening acts now, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And things are still together with you and Mavis as things are moving to the future. If things move, are you still doing the Mavis gig? Or
I'm not. I've been off the Mavis gig since the beginning of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. I decided I really, well, we were getting ready to Skip the Needle was getting ready to do another record for Little Village Foundation, and we were also doing that other show. You saw that show, the Tribe Called Quest tribute show?
Yes.
And so we were involved in a bunch of projects, and I knew I couldn't do both, and so getting off the road was really great. It was one of the best decisions I made. It was like, you know, I love Mavis. I absolutely worship Mavis. But, you know, being out there on the road means that's the only thing you can do. You know that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. You ended up staying out there. And you were on the last record though. Am I right? Yeah. Last two records.
Not the last record, not the one that
We Get By?
Yeah, I'm not on that record, I don't think.
Okay. If All I Was...
Yeah, that one.
That...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on that one.
Okay.
And then they did a live Union Chapel thing.
Live in London.
Yeah, live in London.
Okay. So those two.
Yeah, those two.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
I was trying to make sure that I was listening for you in there somewhere. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you actually were able to take time off the road, because like I know that steals the energy for your other projects when you're only doing something for somebody else, no matter how good it is.
Yeah.
You know,
it takes all of your. I mean, I realized I was getting really, really good at things that I didn't really care about, like getting on and off airplanes on time. You know.
Oh man.
You know, setting up the hotel, like packing. Like.
Yep. Like,
you know.
I didn't sign up to be good at this.
Yeah, this isn't what I want to be good at. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another little Zen like lesson in life, is like, be careful what you're, or like you only get good at what you practice. What are you practicing? Right. Yeah.
What are you spending all your time? And it's that same thing about, like, if you spend so much of your mental energy tearing yourself down, telling yourself you're not good at something, telling yourself you're, you know, like if that's the refrain that's going on in your brain, it's cutting a groove, and you know,
you're manifesting it.
Yeah, I need to fill my brain with something else, you know.
Yeah,
that's why I listen to you.
Oh, that's why I listen to you.
And that's why I Skip the Needle. Yes. They will fill your brain.
Oh, I love Skip the Needle.
Yeah.
I love you, Vicki. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this. I love seeing and talking to you. I'd like to do it more. I don't mind not being on, camera.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, we could do it off off the podcast and just hang
Yeah,
out. You know, and
yeah.
that'd be fine too, and just share stuff with each other.
Love you, man.
Love you too. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Vicki.
Okay.
Hope you have a great day. Okay.
You too.
I'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.